Welcome to the Voices Podcast Show. My name is Ed, and my guest tonight is a guy that, if I were to give you a complete resume of his work, it would probably take me the next hour to introduce this gentleman to you. But briefly, this gentleman, he is a actor. He's done work on Broadway. I'm not going to mention all of the work that he's done on Broadway. He's done some work on some soap operas on TV that some of you probably have watched. He had a part in the movie Hitch with Will Smith. He's done work probably all over the country and other countries abroad. I'm going to suggest that once this session between he and I is over and you hear his name, to go online and do your research on him, because I can't give you the full rundown on the work that this gentleman has done and is involved in. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you my friend, my homeboy, tonight on the Voices Podcast. He has a large voice. He has a really big voice. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Frederick Bruce Owens. Here's my friend. I call him Fred. I've been wanting to get up with you for a while.
Is that right?
Yeah, man, and I do appreciate you wanting to take the time to stop and bless my channel.
Oh, I've been keeping up with you, man.
Have you?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Okay.
One of my favorite ones, I think, you did the overhead of Henderson.
Oh yeah, on the drone
Yes,
thing.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it kind of took me back a little bit when you went to Flint Hill, because it was one of the places that I had family when I was growing up. So, and that's where my father lived for many years.
Is that right?
So, uh-huh.
Okay.
Right off Chavez Avenue.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
What part of Henderson did you grow up?
I grew up on Pearl Street, which is Happy Hill, which is right over by Eaton Johnson
Yeah.
Elementary School, Henderson Institute.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where I was born and raised, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. Uh-huh. And let me see. I know you're gonna give me a little time this morning, but man, you got such a long resume of stuff to where I know I won't be able to get to everything I want to to talk with you about. So
Hmm.
I might have to reschedule another visit with you if you can find some time.
I can always find time for the
Well,
home folks,
well,
man.
I
Come on.
appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
But I'm ready to get started and talk with you this morning. And I know a lot of a lot of people are gonna recognize you that probably haven't seen you in a while, and some won't. But like I said, you just have such a long resume of work that you've done, and I don't want to be redundant because I've seen some of your videos on YouTube with interviews with folks.
Uh-huh.
So what I want to do is this morning I want to start with you right where it all began. From uh, not your childhood, but we both went to the same high school. So I want to start right there at that high school because last week when we were uh, doing the instant message thing,
Hmm.
you called out some names of some mentors that kind of rang a bell, and it resonated with me like
Yes,
almost like
indeed.
a tuning fork when you
Hmm.
tap it on one side of the room and there's one on the other side, and it'll ring, just because it's
Hmm.
on the same note. Yeah, you mentioned
Well,
some guys there that kind of hit a
well,
spot with me.
it all started with basically with my grandfather, my parents, obviously, because they were the ones who instilled all of the mannerisms and things that exist inside of me today. When you hear the
Mm-hmm.
old people say manners will take you further than anything in the world,
True.
I always live by that.
Okay.
But I think my first big impression came from Mr. Cushionberg.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I think he was a basketball coach at Henderson Institute at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a huge basketball fan, and I had a uncle who used to play for Henderson Institute. So I used to go and support them and watch them all the time.
Okay.
And there was, even at that age, you could see that there was an extreme amount of discipline that he had instilled in his team
Mm.
just by the way they came out together. They came out as a team. They
Okay.
warmed up as a team.
Mm-hmm.
Everything they did it as a team. And I was impressed by that. And that was basically the running thread of my life because when I was in the military, that discipline continued.
Okay.
And so watching that and the structure of how he did everything,
Mm-hmm.
it just continued on through my life. So everywhere I went, people would say, "One thing I love about you, man, you're just so structured." And that's where all of that came from. And
Okay.
that to me was one of the greatest compliments, when people talk about my discipline and how well structured they think I am. That's a big deal to me because those were the lessons that I saw with the people that, like Mr. Cushionberg.
Right.
Lonnie Davis was another one.
Mm-hmm.
Imran Joe Cash,
Yep.
uh, Charles Davis. He
Mm-hmm.
was another one. J.A. Majette.
Okay.
Because having been raised without a father, these were the men who were always at the ready,
Right.
to act as a mentor for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because eventually I got to spend some time with all of them. Mr. Majette, Mr. Cash, they were all teachers. And I eventually,
Right.
Lonnie Davis,
Right.
I had him as a teacher also.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent a great amount of time underneath these men, learning as much as I could from them. Um, looking up to them as big time mentors. And that's what they were. And they knew this
Right.
uh, because I would constantly call on them for counsel and for advice. And, even when it came to time to make big time decisions as to where I was going to go, after high school. And it was a toss up for me, university and the military.
Okay.
And so, I had gotten accepted to go to North Carolina Central University, but I ended up going to the military.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was a whole other story that led me somewhere else and eventually led me
Right.
somewhere else. And that became the running line, really, in my life. But it basically all started, and I know you didn't want to go back to the childhood, but for me, it started in grade six.
Okay.
Um, that was the first time that I had experienced a white teacher, and her name was Miss Belton.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at that time, the schools were segregated,
Right.
but she was a white teacher at Eden Johnson. I think it was Eden Johnson or either Henderson Institute at the time.
Okay.
And she took us to see a show that was on tour in Raleigh called Man of La Mancha. I don't know if you're familiar with the show,
Not.
um, but
Mm-mm.
there was a guy who sung this song called The Impossible Dream.
Okay.
And for some reason, I just closed my eyes and I just started dreaming through his voice when I heard this song. And how ironic was it that 20 years later, I'm on Broadway doing the same show?
Wow.
That's one of those things that started me to speak things out loud. Most people use the term dream.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's just when I wanted to do something, I would just speak it out loud and ask God for it, and it would come to pass at some point. Um, and I spent many years on Broadway with no formal training at all. I never took any voice lessons, no dance lessons, no acting lessons, none of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I was disciplined enough that if you would show me something, to me it was no different than drill and ceremony. You're a military man, so you know
Oh
what
yeah.
that means.
Yes, sir.
So it's choreography is nothing more to me than drill and ceremony.
Right.
That's it. So when
Mm-hmm.
people would say, "How did you learn this stuff so easy?"
Mm-hmm.
Man, I was conditioned to learn that stuff a long time ago.
Yeah.
Just by being in the military, and
Mm-hmm.
every day you can't go from point A to point B without marching.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. That's right.
So that's all it was to me.
Mm-hmm.
It was,
Mm-hmm.
somebody showed me how to get from point A to point B.
Right.
And I had enough soul inside of me, enough rhythm. I was in a band the whole time I was in high school,
Okay.
a band called Ebony Connection,
Mm-hmm.
and that was with Bay Woodard, George Clark.
Mm-hmm.
Dwight, let me see, Dwayne Towns, William Baskerville,
Okay.
Newt Harris.
Some of those names are coming back. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh huh.
absolutely. So
Okay.
we had a band in high school, man. So I was being groomed for a lot of the stuff that I ended up doing later on in life. I just didn't know it at the time that that's what I was being groomed for.
Right.
But we all would sit, sometimes we would be in the change room before a show,
Mm-hmm.
and we were always talking about things we wanted to do later in life. And one of the biggest things for me, I always said, I want to do film and TV. I used to say this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do film and TV. You
Mm-hmm.
remember Gerald Austin?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. From Mobile, right?
absolutely.
Uh
And I
huh.
used to go see his show when he was called Gerald Austin and the New Imperials.
Okay.
So Dwayne Towns and William Baskerville and I, we would go and watch those guys all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a lot of role models that were in front of me. So when people say, you come from Henderson, man, there was a lot of talent in Henderson,
Yeah.
a
Well,
ton of talent.
and I say what Gerald Austin, Mobile, and actually that's Henderson. Mobile is just a section
Yeah,
like Flint Hills and
Just
Red
like
Hill.
Happy Hills.
Right. Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
West End, it's all Henderson.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So having watched him, the first time I saw him on Soul Train, I mean, most people were freaking out. While in my mind, I was saying, one day I'm going to be doing the same thing.
Okay.
But I wouldn't let nobody know that because I didn't want anybody to kill my dreams for me.
Exactly.
So I
Exactly.
always, my grandfather always told me that if you want to achieve something, keep it to yourself.
Exactly. I was having that conversation the other day, over the weekend with my sister. I told her, I had some things coming up that I didn't want to speak out loud because, like you said, sometimes just keep it to yourself and
Keep it to yourself.
it'll,
Hmm.
it'll more than likely happen. But when you get to talking about it too much, sometimes it just kind of fades away.
Where
That's
everybody's not going to be happy for yours.
that's true.
And that's why I keep it to myself.
Uh huh. I
Because I'm
got
going
you.
to be happy for me.
Yeah, yeah. And just to step back for a minute, couple of names you didn't mention, those mentors, Mr. Oh man, what was his brother name? Dave
Mr.
Cobb.
Cobb, David Cobb.
Dave
Okay.
Cobb.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's another name. Mr. Ford. Uh,
Rembrandt Ford.
yes, sir. Did you
Yes,
have
sir.
you graduated what year was that?
76.
Okay, okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, I came out 75. Now,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Hmm.
now, and one thing I've never heard you talk about was some of your military career. What branch did you go in?
I went in the Army.
You was in the army.
Um, it's funny because I really don't talk about my military career a lot because it didn't turn out the way that I thought it was going to.
Okay.
Had things worked out the way I wanted them to work out, I'd probably still be in the military.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened, the recruiter told me something that did not take place. And I went to my company officer and I said, this is what I was told, but this is what you guys got me doing. And I didn't ask for this.
Right.
And basically, in a nutshell, he said, we own your black ass. That's
Oh,
what he said to me.
is that right?
Well, he didn't use the word black ass,
Well,
but he said it.
okay.
And and I came out of basic training as a distinguished honor graduate, so I was a soldier of value, and I knew
Okay.
this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking they will let me do what I had asked for in the first place.
Okay.
And they said, no, we want you here. And I was, felt a little bit, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like they did me wrong.
Okay.
And so I went to my CO and I asked out and they gave me out. I had been in for like a year and that was it.
Okay.
So that was my military career.
Okay.
But like I said, had things worked out the way they were supposed to,
Yeah.
it was my plan to go for an entire career. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted a career in the military. That was what I wanted to do at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just didn't work out that way, which was fine because it led me back
To
home,
other
which
pathways.
eventually, when I got back, I moved to Newark, New Jersey at that time, which was 1979.
Mm-hmm.
And I got married, and I was working at College of Medicine and Dentistry at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that led to my stepping on a man's foot on the subway, and he liked my voice and put me in a show. So that's how the whole thing started.
Okay.
Because I had done shows when I was in high school with
Mm-hmm.
Dwight Pierce, Ann Royster, who was my first music teacher. So she was always doing the musical direction. Dwight Pierce always did the direction.
Okay.
So I had a little bit of a background. So I wasn't intimidated by the business at all.
Right.
Um, as a matter of fact, I felt like I was prepared for it all my life. I just didn't
Mm-hmm.
know it was going to work out the way that it did.
Yeah.
And so I did that one show. And there was a guy that was in the show named Eric Payne. And he said that he was doing another show and they needed somebody to come and play the role of his brother.
Mm-hmm.
And so he introduced me to William Ebron, and I ended up doing a show in Newark called "The First Breeze of Summer."
Okay.
And in that show was Esther Roll,
Mm-hmm.
the lady who played the mother on Good
Good
Times,
times. Right.
Antonio Fargas, who played
Mm-hmm.
Huggy Bear and Starsky and Hutch,
Right.
and James Earl Jones, who became my lifetime mentor.
Okay.
Um, Once again, having a huge mentor in life to talk me through the business and introduce me to the professional side of the industry and show me how things would go.
Right. Yeah.
Because you people always talk about how much of a mentor I am to these kids here.
Yeah.
It all came from there were people who were there to groom me and show
Right.
me how this thing went from
Right.
day one.
And
And that would have been
you get them back
Esther
now.
Roll, who eventually became my godmother,
Okay.
and James Earl Jones, who became my greatest mentor
Yeah.
in life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
He's got
So
that
that's
big
where it all
big
started.
voice, man. Like you have. You know that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. That voice, man.
yeah.
I tell you, you got the big voice. I can tell you that.
Well,
You
thank
know.
you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a big plus.
But I
Uh,
stand at attention when I'm around him, though. Believe
is that right?
me. Yes, yes, I do, because he
Yeah.
has an even greater voice.
Uh huh.
So yes, I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And you were talking. We were talking about um, your team up there that you're coaching. Tell
Teams. I
me
have several teams
several
that I
teams.
coach.
Tell me
Three of them.
about that. Now you're located though in you in Canada, correct?
Yes, Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, as a
Okay.
matter of fact.
Yeah. Tell me about
Um,
that program, man. What's going on up there?
the program is called Haldeman Huskies Basketball.
Mm-hmm.
7 years ago, a very dear friend of mine, I was coaching his son at the time and helping him to get a scholarship to go to university. And he said that he was working with this up and coming program, but he didn't know anything about basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And if I would come and help him out. So that was the introduction of me to go to this program. Well, anyway, I went to help out and he quit.
Wow.
And so that left me there by myself.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, I had made a commitment to these kids, and I told them that I would see it through. And again, being a military man, you say you're going to do something, be true to your word.
That's true.
So
Right.
you start something. I always teach the kids: you start something, you see it through.
Right.
So we started out with just one team,
Okay.
and this was 6 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have four teams. Last year we won 3 gold medals at Ontario Cup.
Wow.
This year we won 2 gold medals. So
Mm.
we continue to build. But that's just one of the programs that I've been involved with since I've been here.
Mm-hmm.
The primary program was a program called UPlay, United Public Leadership Academy for Youth.
Mm-hmm.
That is the program that I basically cut my teeth with
Okay.
when I first came up here because they were a travel team, AAU team. So we come to the States all the time.
Okay.
Um, we do a lot of tournaments all over the country, and I would always go home anytime we would do a tournament somewhere in Virginia or North Carolina.
Okay.
Um, I would always find my way home or find my way to guys that I went to school with or that I've kept in contact with.
Right.
Uh, Michael Ricks was one.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Dennis
I
Marrow, and
know
I.
Dennis. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dennis actually came up here, did a seminar here in Toronto, and I met him in Toronto. We went out and had lunch together.
Okay. Okay.
So I
Yeah.
stay in contact with everybody. Of course, my greatest contact was Dwayne Towns,
Mm-hmm.
but he passed in 2009.
I didn't know Dwayne passed. Did not
Yeah,
know
he
that. Mm-hmm.
passed in 2009. So I always referred to him as the Minister of Intelligence. Anytime I wanted to know what was going on in Henderson,
Mm-hmm.
I just called Dwayne. He knew everything. So,
Yeah.
so so once he passed, man, it was like the weirdest thing in the world when I would come home.
Mm-hmm.
I would go see my family, but it was like this,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just him because we played in the band together for many, many years. And
Okay.
even when I first moved back to North Carolina, which was 2008, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that because I was starting up a Barry White tribute band.
I saw you on YouTube doing that, doing a
Yeah,
tribute to Barry White. Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Dwayne was my partner in crime in doing all of that. So it's been
Okay.
all over the place, man. But
Mm-hmm.
getting back to the program, it's a small program, but we're doing really big things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. I can
And
see that.
I mean helping players get scholarships to go to university.
Mm-hmm.
Through the U Play program, we already have several players that are in the NBA right now.
Oh, really?
Uh, Probably the biggest name would be Shea Gilgis Alexander, who plays for OKC.
Okay.
Um,
I'll keep an eye on him.
right, yeah, Ryan Nimhart, who plays for the Indiana Pacers.
Okay.
We have like 4 or 5 of them now in the NBA, but Shea is the biggest name,
Okay.
and
Okay.
he was the runner-up this year in the MVP race.
Okay.
So you had Nikola Jokovic who won it.
Mm-hmm.
Shea was in second place this year, so he made his first All-Star team this year. Um, so a
Yeah.
lot of great things have been taking place, and I keep things down here.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, a lot of people would like to, elevate the name of what I do, but I try to keep things on a lower plane because it keeps me humble.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
and people can build you up, and then they'll just tear you down.
Right.
And
Right.
I learned that in the industry, which I walked away from when I moved here,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of threw people for a loop because I was right at the doorstep of what they started after I did the movie Hitch with Will Smith.
Right.
Um, and nobody could believe it when I walked away from it. But I walked away from the industry because it's just a bad business, man.
Really? Yeah, I was
It,
gonna ask you if you were still in the business of
no, I have
acting and
no desire. I still do voice work.
okay.
Like this weekend, I'll be at a Comic Con to sign autographs for some of the characters that I've done over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So I still do those kinds of things.
Right.
But in terms of film and TV and Broadway and
Mm-hmm.
they call me all the time, but I always say no. I have no interest in it whatsoever.
I was going to ask you if I mean, you probably never retire as an actor. If they were to call you back, for some parts, would you go back? But you, no,
They do this. They call me all the time.
really.
Yeah,
Mm.
all the time. And I mean for roles, but it
Mm-hmm.
would require. Like I just got called to do a film. They're going to be shooting in Prague for
Okay.
7 months.
Okay.
Turned it down.
Really.
My agent was like, "Are you crazy?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, I must be crazy because I have a great passion for what I do with these
I was
kids.
just about to ask you. I mean, is it the kids that you kind of more focused on right
Absolutely,
now? Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
These young, especially these young black men,
Yeah.
they need big time role models in their life to guide them from one point to the next.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of kids up here who don't have fathers,
Mm-hmm.
and I can relate to that. So I knew what my life would have been like had it not been for the Lonnie Davis and the Charles Davis and these people. And so I see so much promise and so much potential in these young men.
Yeah.
And if I can be the game changer for them,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem with that. Broadway, film and TV, that stuff to me is nothing more than a big illusion.
Mm.
And you have to go somewhere and play something that you really aren't.
Right.
I was never built to be that. That's something that God placed in my life because I wanted my sons to have the best of everything. And it's a
Mm.
very lucrative profession, believe me when I tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I did that long enough for my sons to get through school and get through university. And once they graduated, I was like, I don't need this anymore.
Okay.
I know so many people who have changed as a result of this industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very dangerous business. Most people only talk about the glamour and the glitz of it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a very dark side of this business, man. If you're not prayed up,
Yeah. Yeah. Well.
so I just got away. I mean, you look at what's happening with like P. Diddy and
Oh
all this
yeah.
kind of,
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
this stuff was around me all the time,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, that's not even who I am.
Yeah. I've
So
seen you
why
rubbing
do,
some big shoulders, man. I've seen you up with Holly Berry and yeah, I mean,
well, I
like
do,
I
I
said,
do what
Will
I have,
Smith
I
and
did what I had to do
mm-hmm.
at that time. But once I accomplished my goal of getting my sons through university and no longer needing money to help them out,
Right.
I was like, bye, y'all.
Okay.
Y'all go play that game. I played the game for 30 years, man.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
played it for 30 years,
Wow.
so now I can just be me. I'm my
Mm-hmm.
own boss. I have my own business. I come
Mm-hmm.
and go when I want to.
Right.
So I don't have to play no games.
I got you. I got
It's 100 with me all the time.
you. Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that whole thing. I used to hear my father say it because, he had his own business and he would say, there's nothing like being your own man.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what that meant until I had my own. Now I
Mm-hmm.
know what that means, and I love it. I wouldn't give that up for nothing to go back and play games with these people.
Yeah.
Nah,
Yeah. Yeah. So you tell me you're building men in this program, but so it's more than just basketball that you're teaching.
yo,
I
yes
mean,
indeed,
you
yes indeed
teaching
it
them
is.
life skills and
Yes,
uh, coming into manhood. And I think you told me the ages. Did you say you're starting at 16? The young man I was
well,
asking you about
well,
was
grade
16,
grade
but
eight to grade eight to grade 12.
grade 8 to
Uh,
12. So
yes,
yeah, and that's that time when they're in a pretty difficult period at that time. They're coming into
absolutely.
puberty. Yeah. And is it
Yes
is it
indeed.
is it just males that you're dealing with, or is it some
Um,
females?
yeah, for the most part, just guys.
Just guys. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
The
Yeah,
house league include girls, but I don't have a girls team.
gotcha. Okay.
But we do introduce them to the game of basketball. I do skill development,
Okay.
uh, for, so that would include both male and female.
Mm-hmm.
But and for some reason, I was always afraid to coach a girls team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why.
Right.
I do know why, because you have to be so careful being around girls today. The least little thing you say
Right.
or even misinterpreted, you can go to jail for
You
these
get in
things now.
trouble
So I
easy.
stay away from it.
I understand.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, I totally stay away from it.
Yeah.
So I don't put myself in no positions
Yeah.
for any, because I don't know how things work
Yeah.
a lot of times. But I do once, as an athlete, when they do a good job, you pat them on the butt,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
he pat one of the
You get
girls on the butt, and then that
you in
was the
trouble.
end of his coaching career,
You,
man.
you,
No, that was the end of his coaching career.
yeah.
And I'm like, that's just an instinctual thing to do when
Exactly.
somebody does a good job.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Man, I'm like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So I just keep it with the guys,
Yeah. I
and
understand. I
I'm fine
understand.
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So and I mean, I just so many questions I have for you, and I know I have just a
I got
limited amount of
time. I
time.
got time.
Okay,
I got the
okay.
time.
So, I mean, what's an average day like for you? Like you say, you do your own thing now. You're not into the acting thing anymore. But
It's
what's an
it's
average day?
it works in levels because I have kids who are in university that are playing basketball for the university,
Mm-hmm.
and my professional guys, and then I have my local guys that I work with my team. So the more professional guys, I see them earlier in the morning,
Okay.
which the first level of training for me comes at to like 7:30. I do my professional guys
Okay.
7:30 to 9:30. I'll do the guys that are in university, and then I take a break till about 2 o'clock, and then I come back and work with the guys that are on my team,
Mm-hmm.
and I meet them after school, and we do skill and development. That's on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Mm-hmm.
On Tuesday and Thursday, we just have and practice with my teams,
Okay.
which is in Alderman Huskies team,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much on Saturday I give back to the community, so I do skill and development work from 9:30 to noon team to play for, but still want to learn how to play the game of basketball. Um, I have an open 3 hour window for them to come in and learn, and we
Mm-hmm.
talk about life and things like that. So
Okay. Good.
play
Yeah.
mentor to them all to also.
Yeah.
Um, so that's just a normal day for me. It's always in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
It's always in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like the last 2 weekends we've had, of course, Ontario Cup. So we were in Ottawa for the last 2 weekends with the U14,
Mm-hmm.
and we just finished with the U19 team.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so now the season is over. So
Okay.
now we go into off-season training.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
the schedule is season training. I can do everybody at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But during the season, guys have specific needs that they want to work on. So I can devote more personal time to the players. During the season, during the off season, I have to include people because these kids really don't care in terms of, like I said to them, I said, man, I'm in my 60s, man. I can't be running up and down the court like I used to.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, they don't care. Coach, can we get in some time? Like it's nothing to them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, you're 16 years old. You can do this all week. There was a time when I could do it all week also.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm very fit
Mm-hmm.
for a man my age. Most people don't know. They see me playing basketball with these kids.
Mm-hmm.
They would think probably that I'm in my 40s,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm closer to 70 than I am to 60. I tell you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I
you know,
yeah. 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 Let me see, man. Let me see. Let me see what I had on here. I want to bring with. We've covered your military thing. You say you're not into the theater anymore, but I mean, just some
I
of the.
pick it. I should. What I should say is I pick and choose
Okay.
when I want to do something because I did a production last year of Jesus Christ Superstar, which is a show that I had done on Broadway before.
Mm-hmm.
And we did the film of it in London, England.
Okay.
And a friend of mine called last year and asked if I would do it. And I
Okay.
did,
Mm-hmm.
only because I felt like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not totally over.
Yeah.
I just pick and choose what I want to
What
do.
about commercials? I think I heard your voice on a commercial last night when
I still do
when.
commercials.
Okay.
I don't do much on camera, but I do a lot of voice work
Uh huh.
for advertising agencies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a lot of voiceovers.
Okay.
Um, on camera stuff, I'm not too keen about because it just takes longer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You
So
you
so
do a voiceover, you're in the studio and out within probably 15 minutes. That's your day.
okay. So I mean, do you do that from home? Is that something that you do from home, or you actually
The
have to
voiceover
go on
stuff I
site?
can do. Voiceover stuff I can do from home,
Okay.
and maybe that's another reason why I love doing it because I don't have to go anywhere.
Okay. Okay.
I basically have a at home studio set up basically just like you do.
Okay.
So whenever I want to do something, I can do it here.
Okay. Hmm. Yeah.
So, and like I say, a lot of the characters that I did, people are paying me good money to these days to come and sign autograph and take pictures. It's funny to me
Hmm.
because I don't understand what the big deal is with my name on a piece of paper. It still doesn't register with me. I don't understand the big deal of why this means so much to people.
Uh huh.
But man, I'm going to tell you something. They pay a ton of money for you to do this stuff.
Really?
You know,
Yeah.
it's actually crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy
Wow.
that someone would take the time out of their day
Hmm.
to come and give me a piece of paper for me to write my name on and take a picture with them and they give me $100.
Mm.
And I
Wow.
mean that's just on the low end.
Hmm.
The bigger the city, the more money they'll pay you. So you talk about doing this stuff for a block of like from 10 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Hmm.
Crazy, man.
Wow.
It really is great. And in the beginning, somebody had been trying to get me to do it for years,
Hmm.
but I was like, yeah, it takes too much time out of my day.
Hmm.
And so it's just like everything else. You don't have to do them all.
Right.
I always do one if they do it in Toronto. They call me. I always do that one because Toronto is a big city.
Okay.
Niagara Falls, when they have the one, I always do them because Toronto and Niagara Falls are the two biggest places where they do these Comic Con things
Okay.
here.
Okay.
So anytime there's one in Toronto, I'll do it.
Hmm.
And anytime there's one in Niagara Falls, I'll do it every single time.
Mm.
Anywhere else, I may show up, I may not show up. But one of the characters that I do, which is this character called Gold D. Roger
Hmm.
of this animated series called One Piece.
Okay.
He's a really big deal right now because they did the film and it's on Netflix.
Hmm.
So the popularity of the show is really big right now.
Okay.
The other big characters that I do are on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
And one is called Traximus, which is a rhinoceros. The other one is Leatherhead,
Hmm.
which is this so-called and highly intelligent alligator,
Okay.
crocodile,
Hmm.
actually.
Okay.
And so between those three characters, man, you can do a couple of weekends, man. I'm not even exaggerating and buy a house.
Come on, come on, Fred.
I'm
Are
not.
you
I'm
are
not
you
even
serious?
exaggerating. I'm not even exaggerating, man. I mean,
Jesus.
most people don't know why I don't do it more often.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I pick and choose because fans are crazy, man. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
short term form is fan, but what they really are, they're fanatics. And for me, everything is about I value my peace.
Understand.
And so anytime I go anywhere, as long as things are in decency and in order,
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay. But every single time that I've been to one of these things, something always gets a little bit out of hand. Where
Okay.
it starts, I don't know. I mean, they're so big, they're so huge, you never know where these things come from.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always somebody who has tried to jump a line, or something, or feel like they didn't get what they thought they were going to get or something, and they just throw a fit.
Right.
So I haven't had any of that happen in Toronto or in Niagara Falls. So that's why I choose those two places more than anywhere else.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, this weekend is going to be a little bit different because it's in a place called Mississauga,
Mm-hmm.
which is a part of Toronto,
Okay.
and I know a lot of people that are there. So basically, I'll be amongst friends. So I'll be okay there.
Mm-hmm.
In this industry,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you think about it, people can just walk up on you. You don't know who they are.
That's true.
When I was on Broadway, I didn't realize a lot of the dangers that artists deal with on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So one day I come out of my dressing room, the show is over. There are always people lined up at the stage door to get your autographs after the show. So there was like maybe 100, 200 people lined up, and we signed all the autographs.
Mm-hmm.
One of the girls in the show, this guy comes out of nowhere and use some very foul language against her and bust her right in her mouth,
Oh man.
knocked out like three of her teeth.
Wow.
Um, and I jumped back because I didn't know what was going on. There's always a police presence, but they're not always present.
Okay.
So there were a couple of guys that were standing on the corner and they came over and they arrested the guy. And so the producers hired a bodyguard for her
Mm-hmm.
for the remainder of the run for the show.
Okay.
But you ask yourself the question, but what about the rest of us?
Yeah.
you know
Right.
you don't know what goes on in a person's mind.
Yeah.
When they see you somewhere, they speak to you, you don't speak back
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know them, but they think you're not speaking to them because you think you're better than they are.
Right.
And then they have something to say about it. And, so a lot of that stuff, like I said, I walked away from it because I needed a greater peace of mind. It's a very stressful business, man.
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it is. And you have to understand, the old saying, time is money.
Yeah.
In the industry, when they said time is money,
Mm-hmm.
they mean it, because they're paying you so much money.
Okay.
You know, I did a commercial once to tell you the level of money you can make in this industry. I did a commercial once for Western Union,
Okay.
and basically it was just a tag. It just said Western Union, the fastest way to send money worldwide.
Okay.
That's all I did.
Okay.
The first residual check that I got was well over $200,000.
Get out of here, Fred.
Yeah,
Gee, man.
mm, yeah.
What you get for that Miller commercial?
The Miller beer,
Yeah.
I don't remember, but I know it was a great
The great deal of money.
a great
Yeah.
deal of money.
Yeah. That's a good commercial.
Voiceovers are very lucrative. Commercials are very lucrative. The
Really?
industry itself, you think about it, Will Smith is the highest paid black actor in Hollywood, and he's making close to $64 million a film.
Wow. Wow.
So you
Mm-hmm.
think Will Smith makes $64 million. Somebody underneath him may not be making 64 million, but they're making more money than they've ever made in their life.
Yeah.
And that was me when I did Hitch.
Mm-hmm.
The first residual check I got for that show, I mean, I probably started crying or something. I don't know, because you don't know what to say.
Like you hit the lottery. Hit the lottery.
Yeah, you don't know what to say.
Yeah.
All you know is, and everything for me was based on family.
Yeah.
I could better take care of my family. And when I say
Yeah.
my family, I don't mean just my sons,
I understand.
my mother,
Extended.
my
Yeah.
sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanted to help out my family
That's them
because,
blessings coming back to you,
yeah,
man.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And growing up in Henderson, North Carolina, we
Yeah.
didn't have a lot, but we didn't know that
Man, what you talking about?
because
Who
we
you?
always had something to wear.
Yeah.
I think we had three changes of clothes. We had school clothes, after school clothes, and Sunday clothes.
Okay. Yeah.
So we had those three, and we knew the difference between the three.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely knew the difference.
Yeah.
And so when you get those kind of blessings, man, you just really want to be a blessing to so many people that
Yeah.
you've seen them help out other people when they really didn't have nothing, and
Yeah.
you knew they didn't.
Yeah. What what
And I
what
know a lot of those people.
what church did you attend back there in Henderson?
Growing up, it was Davis Chapel.
Davis Chapel.
It's on Chestnut Street, I think, or
Let me see.
John Street, or whichever one.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I was out of Shiloh. I was over there with.
Charles Turpentine is the pastor there now.
Okay.
Okay, so Davis Chapel was one.
Mm-hmm.
Cotton Memorial Presbyterian Church on Chestnut Street. That was
Okay.
another one.
Okay.
And Spring Street Baptist Church,
Mm-hmm.
which was over in Red Hill.
Okay. That's right.
That was between those three. That's where we would always go.
Okay. Yeah. I was out of
Depending
Shiloh over there.
on who was going to church,
Right.
they were going to one of those three places, and
Okay.
that's what we.
Yeah, I was a member of Shiloh over there with, like you said, Mr. Cushenberry. He was he was one of the deacons over there at
Okay.
Shiloh. Yeah, and I think that
Hmm.
during that time, like I said, I don't remember him doing anything in athletics when I was coming up. But like you said, you probably caught him early.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. 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 Growing up in Henderson, man, was, I mean, what they call it, the gateway city.
The gateway
And,
city to the
and
south.
yeah,
That's
but
what they
it,
call it.
it it was a gateway to a whole lot of other stuff too.
You
You
got
know.
that right. I wouldn't trade the experience for nothing in the
No,
world.
no.
I really wouldn't. Most
Yeah,
people, I tell them all the time. Although my childhood consisted of segregation, like we go to the movie theaters. You know this.
yeah.
We had to go to the balcony, the
That's
white
right.
kids.
That's right.
But I wouldn't trade those experiences for nothing in the world. It molded me,
Yeah.
and it toughened up my skin a little bit. So when I went out into the world, I
Mhm.
would always say, "Bring your best."
Mhm.
It doesn't phase me at all.
Mhm. Yeah.
My life motto is, and I tell people all the time, what's hell for some is just right for me because I was built for it.
That's
I
right.
believe that, and I
Yeah.
believe that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
Yes.
right. That's right. Fred, I'm not gonna hold you but a few more minutes, but look, tell me, with working with these young men that you're working with right now,
Hmm.
what's uh what's the more challenging thing you finding with them, with all of this, the social media that's going on and all of that, to kind of keep them focused and grounded on what you're trying to do with them? What's the hardest thing you working with these young men? To,
Um, Probably self love, teaching them to love themselves
mm-hmm.
a little bit more. Of course, you have this gangster rap that's been around for the
Oh man.
longest time now. So you have
Yeah.
a lot of these young men, especially young black kids, walking around calling each other the N word,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
referring to the girls as the bees and all
Oh
this kind
man.
of stuff.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I try to really emphasize with them,
Okay.
a higher level of loving yourself. Because when
Mm-hmm.
we were growing up, like I said, we didn't have a lot, but we loved ourselves, man. I know
We
I
did.
did. I know my family
Oh
did.
yeah. Yeah.
We made it through because we did.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these uh, older guys that I come across, they're not really good role models for these young kids because they're basically in the same age with them in terms of the kind of music that they listen to
That's
growing
true.
up. So I know a lot of men who are in their 30s and 40s who have the greatest opportunity in the world to be role models for these kids,
Mm-hmm.
are acting just like these kids,
That's true. Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
you don't just have to be mentors to these kids now.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's almost to the point where I have to be role models for the guys in their 30s and 40s because they act more like the kids than the kids do.
That's true.
And the only reason why they're doing that a lot of times, I think, is because they want so much to be liked by these kids. I'm not interested in these kids liking me.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need a 67-year-old friend.
Right.
They need somebody, because one thing I've learned about dealing with kids If you got discipline and structure, you got all of their attention. They'll do whatever you need for them to do because they have that pattern in their life, that thing that can connect the dots for them to go from point A to point B.
Right.
But I'm not interested in them liking me. That just respect me and understand that I'm out here to try to help you, elevate your life.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, they get it.
Yeah.
They really do get it. But like I say, my biggest challenge is the lack of support coming from the other older gentlemen, that other middle generation
Yeah.
of guys who are in their 30s and 40s that don't understand that this is also an opportunity for you guys to be mentors to these young kids.
Yeah.
They listen to them a lot faster than they listen to me
Mm-hmm.
because they're closer to their age.
Gotcha.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
they see me more as the granddad. As a matter of fact, all of them call me pops.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody calls me pops.
Okay.
So they see me more as that grandfather guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That the real role model that they need is in the same boat that they're in.
Yeah. Exactly.
And once some of those guys, if they start to come out a little bit more, you know, it's hard to get these kids to pull up their pants when the guys, the
It,
next generation
it,
still got their
it
pants
still got
hanging
that.
out.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's basically the biggest challenge for me.
Yeah.
But it's not something that throws me. It's just the challenge, like anything else in life.
Mm-hmm.
You learn how to navigate your way around that, and you learn how to do that too.
Yeah.
So it's been a blessing to be in that position, but that's a position that I've always wanted to be in because it's my way of saying thank you, Lonnie Davis, thank you, Mr. Cash,
Yeah.
thank all those guys who were there for me.
Yeah.
Um, and the thing about it is, never charge me a dime, man.
Mm.
I look back at it now and see the business of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Everything comes with a price.
Yeah.
You had men who did that stuff for us. They never charged us nothing.
That's true. Yeah.
So when it comes now that I'm retired
Mm-hmm.
and living off a very good pension,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need these people's money. So now I give all of my time to the youth. I
Okay.
give it to them,
Yeah.
and I don't have a problem with it.
Okay. Yeah.
You
That's
know.
good, man. That's good. That's good.
So
That's good. Well, Fred, man, I know you got a busy day ahead of you, and I
man,
really
I
do.
cleared up. I cleared up at least 3 hours because I didn't know what you were going to ask me for.
Well,
So
I don't want to hold you that long, but I tell you what, I hope you keep an open door for me to come back and
absolutely,
talk to you
always,
again
Chester,
because
always, man.
man, look, I had some sheets here, but I mean your resume, man, is I mean it's just so deep and long that I can't get it all in one day,
Yeah,
and I
I
don't
get
want
it.
to put you through that, but I appreciate you spending this amount of time with me,
And
and
keep doing what you're doing, man. You keeping the
man,
people informed. I like that.
I'm trying to, man, and I appreciate you giving me the okay to contact you anytime, and maybe we can set up and talk some more, man. I'm quite sure the home folks gonna
Always welcome.
be glad
Always open.
to see you,
Yes,
and
sir.
some of them gonna be surprised to see you because they probably haven't seen you in a while. I mean,
I haven't seen them in a while.
yeah,
It works both ways.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Uh,
like I said, man, I appreciate it again, and hey, enjoy your day, Fred,
I will do, Chester. Will
and
do, man.
stay in
Mm.
touch with me.
All right, sir.
All
I
right,
will do
brother.
just that. All
Okay,
right, now you
appreciate it,
got it.
man. Peace out.
All righty,
All right.
got it.